Hey! How dare you leave the house without my permission? I told you not to leave the house until I allowed you to.
When I returned home from the store, my husband, Drake, was waiting for me, looking all angry while he began to yell at me.
Well, my dad collapsed, knowing that dad fainted. There's no could stay at home, only waiting from the hospital about him.
Your job is to do everything I tell you. If you're not satisfied with that, then leave this house right away.
Fine, I understand. Then whatever happens from now on, not complain anything to me, okay?
My name is Monica. I am 27 years old and I am a full-time housewife. It has been 2 years now since I married to my husband, Drake. My husband and I met through work at the CC, where I used to work as a receptionist. My husband was one of our clients, a sales representative, who often came to the office where I was at for business meetings and discussions. So from there, we had seen each other when we happened to see each other. Drake recognized me, and from there, drink together and became good friends. From then on, we chatted here and even at work. And since we had each other's contact information, we started going on dates on our days off. After a few more dates, Drake confessed his feelings for me, and we decided there anything else you need help with. We then proceeded to date and continue our romantic relationship pretty well. I proposed to her and we eventually got married. My husband was 3 years older than me, seemed like a dependable, mature mark. I like older men, and I am especially attracted to those who are really open-minded. So I think that's why I was drawn to him, because he was thoughtful as well as very adventurous. I was so happy that I was going to meet my friend. It was like a dream come true to be man I would love forever. Drake asked me to become a full-time housewife after we got married. So I quit my job and became a full-time housewife. From then on, I worked very hard to please my husband by doing everything around the house. I vacuumed a room every day, wiped down the floors, and made it sparkling clean. Even took the time to do the laundry in the bathroom and scrub the toilet. I even cooked dinner, and I would menu every day for a whole month to nutritious and hearty meal for Mike. I also woke up early every day to make my lunches for Drake. My husband seemed really satisfied working so hard doing the house chores. By working hard like this, I get to my husband, thinking that gives me strength and want to work even harder at House H again. For about a year after I got married, I worked really hard on the housework, this and that, and kept a nice relationship with my husband. And that was why it was difficult to realize who my husband really was. I think it must have been partly because she was trying so hard to do everything perfectly as a full-time housewife. However, it was not until the second our marriage that things began to, which made me gradually become wary husband. It happened one day when I came down with a fever. I rarely catch a cold, but that time a rare cold and had a really high. I rushed to the hospital and got sun medicine, but the fever did not go, was feeling quite ill. So I sent a message to my husband saying that I had a high fever and did feel well enough to cook dinner. So please go out and prepare something for us. After sending that message, I went to sleep for the rest of the night. And when I woke up a few hours later, it was already past 8 p.m. I left the bedroom wondering if Mai was back home, but the living room dark. I looked at my phone to see if Drake had replied, but it seemed like he hadn't read my message yet. Does that mean he agreed? I decided to assume that my husband was too busy at work to respond, so I agreed with what I had sent him. Then, having regained some strength, I decided to make myself a bowl of soup. Thinking that her husband had returned, she headed for the front door.
Oh, welcome home. So, you were not working overtime for that?
I spoke to him, but he seemed to be mood.
What's wrong? You look fine.
Huh?
My husband said that and went into, without really greeting me, that he home. I followed Drake into the living room. He turned around and glared at me.
Hey, what are you cooking?
What?
You said you can't cook for me, but cooking for yourself?
Oh, no. I'm just cooking an easy meal. I'm finally feeling a little better. Thought I'd have something to eat at.
I tried my best to explain, even though I was scared by the scary expression on her face. But my husband did not forgive me.
Wow, you're looking down on me like, aren't you?
What the? Why would I even look down on you? When I sent you the message, I had over 104 degrees Fahrenheit, and it was really hard to breathe. It was really difficult to cook in this condition, so I sent you a message beforehand just in case.
You don't have to make any excuses. It doesn't change the fact that you off and trying not to cook for me. And if you have the energy to argue like that, you better start cooking now.
I was completely stunned. I never thought that my sweet husband would say such a thing. I was so upset and confused when I was told and prepared Drake's dinner. I was really sick while I was cooking, but I was still not in the best shape. I had just recovered my strength after rest and sleep, but now I was in the same situation as when I had the high fever morning. I managed to finish cooking the meat in front of my husband. My husband had a stern look on his, quietly proceeded with his meal. I got up from the table to go lie to sofa while Drake ate. But then my husband stopped me and said, "Hey, where are you going?"
I thought I'd lie down on the couch.
As I said this, my husband put down and sighed.
You're not behaving like a good wife, are you? Was the first year we got married. Are you saying that you're gradually becoming more focused and you're gradually starting to get things done around the house?
What are you talking about?
If you're a wife, you normally sit with your husband and wait until he finished eating.
What do you mean?
My God, you're really a terrible writer.
As you can see from our conversation, this point, husband is clearly arrogant, bossy, strict, and old-fashioned. Lately, he's been really demanding treats from me. He's also been treating me terribly with his strict rules. I have to wait for my husband, who never comes home late. When Drake works late, he sometimes doesn't get home until 10:00 p.m. or 11:00 p.m. And by then, it's too late to eat, so I usually wait for him. It's very hard for me to have to wait that long without being able to eat. But if I eat dinner first, before he gets home, he'll get furious with me. So I have to wait for him to come home while I starve. Every day, I have to wait for him to come home while I'm getting starving. Plus, my husband has become more supportive of me than before.
Hey, didn't we eat the same pasta the day before yesterday? Aren't you being too easy on yourself, Monica? Not only should you change the menu day, you better also change the type dishes too. I don't want to eat Italian food even if it is free.
It's normal for me to get overwhelmed. Drake makes such unreasonable demand this. It's not like I'm his personal house. My husband's unreasonable demands made me worry a lot about our future too. But still, I have to do my best to keep the house clean. I mean, I gotta marry the man I love so much. I think I was still mentally unstable and immature at the time, or perhaps I was narrow-minded. I was convinced that if I left my husband, he would become an unemployed, divorced 26-year-old man who would have no choice but to be just depressed for the rest of his life. So I had no choice but to endure, and I thought Drake was being really unreasonable. In the meantime, my husband would say all sorts of terrible things to me.
You really are useless, good-for-nothing wife. If it wasn't for me, you wouldn't have gotten married. I married you, so you should be better wife. And as a person, Monica,
Why do I have to be told these terrible things by Drake? My husband's continuous verbal abuse driving me crazy and making me go me. And there was one thing my husband annoyed me immensely because of his arrogant attitude. Drake made a permission system where you need to ask before going out somewhere. So, with this stupid system, he couldn't even go grocery shopping without his permission.
you waste my money as soon as I take off you.
My husband would say that to me. I am sure he was referring to the TA get-together with our neighbors. But it's not like we ate something, and it's not like I go to the gym frequently. But even so, my husband didn't like to these things. Drake remembers that time when we were walking outside together, and she said, "I love your shoes." I liked the cafe with the cakes that Monica told me about yesterday.
You're probably secretly going to stay hotel for lunch with them, aren't you?
I insisted to Drake that I had not slept, but he did not believe me at all. So I had to ask permission from Deal, always asking if I was allowed to go on a mission. From then on, I would ask for permission to go out so as not to irritate my husband. He rejected most of my requests for permission. The only time he would give me perm, always for grocery shopping. The grocery shopping on the weekend is a blissful moment for me. But to my husband, it's an accompanying duty every time.
The more people, the better, right? I really, a sweet husband, aren't I? Hey, you agree, right?
Yeah, I'm here.
I always felt threatened around Drake. I began to think that I wanted to get out of this crappy situation as soon as possible. And that was when something happened. I suddenly received a phone call from my mother. What on earth could it be? I answered the phone right away since I was worried. Then my mother sounded very upset at your father. Apparently, my father had collapsed. I immediately got into a cab and headed to the hospital. When my mother and I arrived in the room, my father was asleep. According to the doctor, Dad had, if he had been left unattended, for his life might have been in danger. My mother and I were both scared, but we were relieved to know that we were safe now. But I had forgotten one important. I had gone out without my husband's permission. No, but this was an emergency situation. My husband would probably understand. Well, that's what I thought, but my husband wasn't that mature.
How dare you leave the house without my permission? I told you not to leave the house until I allowed you.
What Drake said was completely uncalled for, and I couldn't help but to go against him.
Well, my dad fainted, you know. Knowing that Dad collapsed, theirs could stay at home, only waiting for from the hospital about him.
My husband flinched for a moment, but his face turned red, and he argued back.
Your job is to do everything I tell you.
Then my husband began to say something shocking.
If you're not satisfied with that, then you better leave this house right away.
At this point, I heard something snag me. I couldn't stay married to this man any longer.
Then whatever happens from now on, not complain anything to me, okay?
I said this coldly and began to pace.
You're a really stupid woman to go against me and disobey me like that. You could be replaced at any time, anywhere, you know.
My husband kept verbally abusing me until I left the apartment. I managed to ignore him and went to my parents' house. My mother was surprised that I came with such a big luggage. But after what happened, she told me that I left Drake as soon as possible. I started living at my parents' house, thinking that I would end up divorced. Then, about a month after we moved back into our parents' house, my husband began to non-stop.
When are you coming back here? If you don't clean up after yourself, our apartment will be trash and I won't be able to sleep here.
Well, why don't you just gather all the garbage and trash and throw them away yourself?
Well, actually, when I was throwing out the trash, the apartment landlord warned me. He told me to recheck the rules on out the garbage. I didn't know what day of the week to put out the garbage, so I had no choice but to bring it back in. And then, before I knew it, there are everywhere. Plus, the bathroom and toilet stinks badly. Hey, please, can you hurry up and see Home 9, Monica?
That's impossible now.
Why is that?
Why do I have to throw away your trash or clean up the mess you've made?
Because you're my wife, so it's on to clean up after me, right?
That's what I'm talking about.
Excuse me?
You think it's only natural that the wife does all the house chores, don't you? And you think that the wife cannot her husband, right? Well, I'm fed up with how you think. Your strict, arrogant attitude. I can't live with you anymore because you don't seem to change your point of view in a situation like this right now.
What are you trying to say?
Let's just get a divorce.
What is the best way to get rid of a cold sore? Divorce. No way. Please think it over. I will never divorce you.
My husband really didn't expect me divorce, so he resisted like that. But I have an ace in my sleeve.
Even if you refuse like that, I can a divorce from you.
Why, what do you mean?
I had been recording you harassing, verbally abusing me for some time, and I consulted my lawyer about this, and he told me that I could get a defamation suit against you, Drake. So I'm going to ask for a divorce through my lawyer and demand compensation as well.
No way. Hold on a minute. Please forgive me.
My husband begged me to take him back, but I refused to forgive him and told him to contact my lawyer for further action. I then managed to divorce Drake and also paid me the compensation for any distress he caused me. I am now living at home and working office where my aunt introduced me. My ex-husband, on the other hand, said his workplace had found out that I was leaving him due to his verbal abuse and harassment. Since word spread out, he had been trying to convince everyone that it was all my fault and that I was crazy. Drake probably feels tiny in that environment where everyone knew him and how he treated people. Plus, Drake's apartment is still dirty because of that. He was recently evicted from his room. I am amazed at how Drake could be ski and arrogant when he can't even take himself at all. Well, I don't really care because it is no longer any of my business. I experienced a lot of difficulties, but decided to look at it positively. This was one of my life experiences, and now I'll be even more careful when making decisions in the future. For now, I will work hard at what I have, and I will spend time with my family.
What Drake was doing to Monica is CCA harassment, wasn't it? Drake really is the worst. I mean, if you hear that your wife's parents collapsed, you would be worried about them. And yet, Drake yelling at his wife, unbelievable. What Monica did was right, to leave. I hope that Monica will be able to meet wonderful man this time. I wish her a happy life from now on.
Thank you for watching until the end. Please subscribe to our channel. We hope to see you in our next video.